work they have put into making this experience as optimal as possible for our kids. And obviously, all of you on the call are a huge part of that as well. There, and I think we had a question in the questions before that we asked people to submit about, how things are going this year versus a traditional year. And I could ramble on about an answer to that question for hours because there's a lot of differences. I think, these numbers are a lot different than what we would see during a normal year. This year has been, I would say, trying for all of us, but it was a challenge for us at the beginning of the year to get things sorted and organized in the way that we would like, because our schools were going through so much. DPS had students in person and then remote and then in person and then only a subset of students in person. So it really took us until second semester to get things sorted and consistent with students as far as attendance and where they were going to be and pairing everybody up. So really, really has been amazing to see once we've gotten to that point, how long things have been, going steady and going smooth. But a lot of those challenges were in place, right? Like schools are shorter right now school days, I should say, are shorter than they normally are. Longer timeline for tutor onboarding. All of these things impact our ability to have as many sessions and support as many students as maybe we would like. But despite all of these things, I think we are seeing students continuing to make progress in their literacy scores and continuing to see the value in one-on-one support each and every week. I think regardless of if we're doing it over the computer or if we're doing it in person, I think we've seen that our students are really responding to the work and the support Reading Partners is providing. And we're also seeing that response from staff and administrations at schools that are just like, thank you so much for your help. And I hope you all are feeling that as well from your coordinators, because we're definitely feeling it in our school partnerships. So that's just a short bit about how things are going this year. Like I said, I could talk a lot, but I want to make sure we're doing good on time. So we'll move it on forward here.
This is the question that's on everybody's mind. What will school look like next year? And we have to take some historical context into the way the state is currently operating. Polis has been very clear at this stage that he wants to rely on counties to make decisions that are best for them, which will fall to districts to decide what's best for them. And at this stage, it's certainly far too early to know, but I can assure you that all schools are as optimistic as we are that they anticipate us being in person and they want it to be in-person learning for their students. But each school district has their own COVID barometer that they use at each school site and for the districts to decide when they'll be in person, when they'll move to cohorts, when the schools will shut down from having externals being able to enter their buildings. So all this information is to say that we are in continual and ongoing conversations with all our school partners at the school level and at the district level to ensure that we can meet their needs and follow the guidelines that are established to ensure that everyone who's in those buildings, whether it's staff, AmeriCorps members, tutors, volunteers, parents, community members, that they're all there and they have some degree of safety that they need. So we work with them for that. We are really looking forward to getting back to in-person learning. I worked with my student today at Place Bridge Academy, and it was great. It was always, it's the best hour of my week. However, I'm still doing my best to hear what they're saying because I'm used to reading some lips with their masks on. And I want the internet connection to be as crystal clear as it is when we sit next to each other. But we're looking for that, and our schools want that to come back as well. There are some things that we have heard that when schools open, some of them may limit the participation of in-person tutoring in the beginning of the school year as they slowly move in to more and more people being able to enter the buildings. And some schools and school districts have been very clear that they will only allow individuals who are vaccinated and can show proof of vaccination to enter into those buildings. So we are working closely with them to find out exactly how they would like that communicated and what we will need to do on our end to prepare each and every one of our core members, tutors, and staff members to have that available and to know where that is needed. And one way we think about potentially mitigating the fact that we may not be able to be in schools straight off the start date is to hopefully be able to have more AmeriCorps members serving with us. This year, we had the pleasure of 13 AmeriCorps members serving with us. And next year, we want to add some Corps members. And these Corps members will be literacy leads. So they will primarily focus on delivering one-on-one literacy intervention with students. And that will allow us to continually serve in schools if volunteers aren't allowed, because this year our AmeriCorps members were allowed in schools and they did serve. So I wish I had more to offer you, but I can offer you one thing for sure, which is our dedication to making it a one-on-one school year and to bring that optimism through everything we do.
Did you go to the next slide?
Yeah. All right. What schools will Reading Partners be serving in next year? All right, let's just take a moment to celebrate. You need to celebrate yourselves right now, because next year is going to be a phenomenal year for Reading Partners and for all of us. We're going to be serving in 12 schools next year. That's great in and of itself. But what makes it even more impressive is that we'll be serving in four school districts next year, right? We will most likely be serving in Westminster. We will definitely be in Denver Public Schools. We'll be in Jeffco schools, and we'll be in Aurora Public Schools. Now, why this is so significant is because it allows us to work with students who are in need of our services and whom we can partner with effectively. When you look at the state of Colorado, according to their own data by the Colorado READ Act and the CMAS, the Colorado Measurement of Academic Success, over 41,000 students, you could fill the Pepsi Center twice with all the students who have been identified as significantly reading deficient. This year, based on our service footprint, we could have access to 8% of those 41,000 students. Next year, we will have access to over 28% of students who are identified as significantly reading deficient and be able to provide services within those school districts. So that's very important. We're still working closely with some Denver public schools to determine if we will be returning to them. It's important to recognize that for us to be successful, we need commitments from our school partners. We need commitments to the conditions for success about providing reading centers, about letting us work into their schedules. But we also need their financial commitments. Their financial commitments ensure that they are additionally invested in our program. It also helps to ensure our financial stability so we can continue our amazing work. And it also helps send a clear message to the state of Colorado that they need to honor the funding they have promised and committed to our public schools. This year alone, Denver Public Schools was unable to pay us over $100,000 in fee for service that we should have and have expected to receive. We served anyway because our students needed us, and we knew this year would be challenging financially as enrollment dropped and school budgets were slashed. But we can no longer take that risk. Next year, as we move forward, we know that our schools will be paying their entire fee for service. And it's a bargain at $25,000 per school. Trust me, that's a bargain. As a former school leader, that was the easiest check I used to write every year, was to Reading Partners. So we're working with our schools to make sure that they can meet their financial obligations as well as their commitment to being successful with our program. And we're excited to say that we know College View, Dora Moore, Schumacher, Placebridge, Samuels, Kaiser, these schools are coming back. And we will let you know. We'll update you as soon as we know the additional schools that we will be returning to. But when you think about our Jeffco footprint, we'll be at Stevens, and we'll be at Boston and Crawford in Aurora Public Schools, as well as Paris. So we'll take a look at the next slide. And this is just a little bit of what it'll look like on the map. You can see we're really starting to strike that Metro Denver, that whole region, moving out of the central, covering central Denver, but also expanding a little bit east, a little bit west, a little bit north, when we get our confirmations from Westminster. We hope that this offers you additional opportunities to share with your friends, your peers, your networks, your coworkers who want to tutor. Maybe now they can find something that's a little more geographically convenient. And it also helps us scale the word about Reading Partners. This year, I got to give a shout out to Zach and Quinn, who have spent a great deal of time fielding inquiries from schools who wish to partner with us, and taking those and stewarding those relationships, because we're working with schools now and talking to them about the school year 22-23. So we are always looking to the future, and we will do our best to expand to meet the needs of those 41,000 students who've been identified as significantly reading deficient. All right, next slide.
So how will Reading Partners Connects be utilized in the future? I think that's a question that everyone has had at some point. Ultimately, our schools, and we've kind of spoken of this in our previous slides, but ultimately our partner schools will be deciding individually which tutoring systems they will allow. So we're having, again, conversations with our districts as well as our school leaders, and they'll be able to determine what is appropriate and safe for students and volunteers and teachers. Reading Partners will have to customize more than we ever have before. But we're going to, of course, as always, do our best to serve school partners the way that they need. And of course, we'll also keep in mind the preferences of our tutors and those safety precautions that need to be taken due to COVID. So there could be some combination, is the bottom line, of Reading Partners Connects, our virtual platform, and Reading Partners Traditional. Some schools may want to go fully traditional. Some may only want to do Connects in the first, Reading Partners Connects in the beginning of the year and slowly move into traditional. We're just not sure yet, and we need to wait for the word from each individual school. And we are prepared to just meet them where they're at. We're learning more every day about how to best utilize Reading Partners Connects. I know that there have been bumps in the road. We knew that this was not going to be a perfect year, and this system rollout happened very quickly. So we knew that there would be imperfections, and we appreciate your patience and letting us know if there are bumps and hiccups, because that's been really helpful in helping us improve our experience on the Reading Partners Connect system. There will be continual improvements as we move through the end of the school year and into next year. So we're hoping that the system will be even better next year for the schools that will be using it. Next slide. And our first question goes to Zach.
Okay, yeah, Zach, you got the first question on our frequently asked questions. When will we know if tutoring is virtual or in person?
I love that. We saw a very similar question from Patty in the chat. I want to just laugh because I wish I knew when we would know. Generally, I mean, I think it will depend on what the individual district is recommending, right? So generally, the way it has happened with COVID is either like one or two school districts will make a decision, and then the other districts will kind of follow suit with that. It's my understanding that most school districts and most school partners that I have talked to have been considering a full return to all students back in person as normal in the fall. I think the question and where people haven't, or where school districts haven't quite made a decision yet, is when community members or volunteers or even parents or just any external individual might be allowed into that school. So I think general, I hope, fingers crossed, we should know sometime, in the next 2 months. But I can tell you all, as soon as we know, you will know. And we will make sure to communicate those plans in those situations. And it may be, as we were saying before, it may be different based on the school or the district in which you're wanting to volunteer. So it may be a situation where one school district, like Guy was saying, only wants tutors to come in person, and another school district that is okay with having a little bit of a hybrid model, as it was mentioned in the chat box. So I think that's what I can commit to now, because again, if I knew, I would tell all of you right away, but I don't think our school districts and our school partners know yet either. So hopefully we will learn sometime in the summer. And then we'll let you know as soon as we know that and have identified solid plans for how we want to communicate those things and organize next steps for all of our volunteers.
Zach, can I ask you to clarify a little bit about what the hybrid model might look like?
Sure. So in a lot of cases, I feel like, are you asking, Brett, like what it might look like to do in-person tutoring and Reading Partners Connects tutoring in the same day?
Yeah. Christine asked a clarifying question. Do you envision a day in school and a day online, for example, as a possibility for a tutor?
Yeah, I guess. I know that's not what people want to hear, but I think that could be an option. I just am not sure. Like I had said, we have heard that some districts have said like only in-person tutoring, and we would recommend starting out with like 5 volunteers allowed per day. Or so it will be different throughout the year. That's what I will tell you. So hopefully we'll be able to ramp back up to what, if you have tutored with us before COVID, what it looked like when we were doing that. But I'm not sure when we'll get there. But it could look like a situation where we have 3 tutors in the reading center and 2 students in their classroom doing Reading Partners Connects with the tutor at the same time. It will all depend on what our school's preferences are. I don't know if Quinn or Guy have other thoughts on that one, but that would be my thought. And Diane asked a good question about how will we get your preference as far as in-person versus virtual. Quinn, do you want to take on that one?
Yeah, Guy, I'll just go into the second question, if that's okay with you. It kind of feeds Diane. You're asking, I think similar to what our second question addresses, is I want to tutor again next year. So do I have to sign up and go through trainings again? We as a region in our national office are working together to figure out what that process will look like. What I can tell you is that our normal Commit to the Next Chapter campaign, where our site coordinators or our distance tutoring coordinators reach out and say, ask if you want to come back for another year of tutoring. We will be doing that again. Someone from Reading Partners will be reaching out to you, likely via phone and email. So we're hoping to hear from everyone to see if you're willing to come back, all while knowing that we might not know exactly what each school is going to have reading partners, like in what capacity reading partners will be in each school. So that said, we'll do that campaign. It's usually around this time, but it will be a little bit later in the year, being that we're not quite sure, and we're hoping to have a little bit more information by the time we start asking all of our tutors if they'd like to come back for another year. After that, we usually communicate with our tutors in late July, early August to get started with get enrolled for the next year. That requires a background check always. It costs $17.43. And then we're working through what the training process will look like, if anything, for returning tutors, depending if you'll go into Reading Partners Traditional or Reading Partners Connects. And then Diane, to answer your question, along with that email in late July or early August, will be a survey to update information for contact information, address and phone and email. And then also, what reading center would you like to be at, as well as what type of tutoring would you prefer to do?
All right, our next question, also for Quinn. I tutored virtually at a school that isn't near me. How will it be determined where volunteers are placed next year?
Yeah, so we fully know that this is a volunteer opportunity, and we're planning to take that into account as far as the proximity of where our volunteers are to their schools. As far as Reading Partners Connects go, it's a virtual platform, so we're hoping that a lot of our tutors will give us grace and patience in tutoring at other schools that are maybe not in their direct area if it's on an online platform. However, for Reading Partners Traditional, for those schools that choose to have tutors in the school, if you're one of those tutors that's able to enter the school, we'll of course take that into consideration, and wouldn't place you at a school that's, if you live in Cherry Creek, that's way in Wheat Ridge, for instance, unless you want to go there.
So Zach, when will tutoring start next year? And when will tutors be contacted about getting started?
Love it. Yeah. Let's get going. Let's start now, right? No, I think, generally, just like a normal year, our intent is to start the first week of September. And pretty quickly after schools have ramped up, we generally, if you've tutored with us in the past, you know that we will generally give our school partners about 2 weeks to get things sorted inside their school and figure out which students are going to be the right fit for Reading Partners. And teachers just need that time to get to know their kids before they say, all right, this student's going to be a great fit for your program. So our intent is to start then. I think one of the things we are optimistic and hopeful about is that we have gotten a lot better around communication in this virtual space. So we've been through the the gambit of how to do Reading Partners when nobody is allowed to be next to each other. And I think that communication and those conversations with our school partners will go a lot smoother as we head into the upcoming school year. Like we've been saying, we're not quite sure just yet what type of tutoring we'll be able to offer. I think, most of our school partners are wanting it to be in person, but nobody knows for sure yet what they'll be allowed to do. But we should, again, be able to reach out and give you more information, one, as soon as we know, but also to get started and to assign to a school and figure out when you'll be tutoring as early as late July, early August. It's generally when we will start getting all of our returning tutors back in the swing of things.
Zach, will there be any summer programming this year?
Oh, we are working with the Denver Public Schools and our school partners right now to arrange for this. There are a number of factors at play here in terms of funding for our program over the summer, space for our program over the summer, figuring out how to make it work. We also would need to extend our current AmeriCorps service year, which is I wish it was easy, but it's not necessarily the easiest thing to get them to extend their final day of service by a month or so, because their service year, unless you are not sure, they start with us in August and end their year of service with us in mid-June. So obviously summer programming would go longer than that. So we're trying to figure that out right now. We're not sure. I think it's looking. I'll just tell you, it's not looking super likely because we're getting to that point where we're running out of time to organize things and make sure that the experience is really well done for all of you and for our students and any potential partners. And I also know that on the district level, their funding streams have been pretty sparse, and it's been pretty difficult to figure out a way to make that work. They're kind of in that space of trying to scrape by, doing everything they can to provide in-person service to students around the Denver metro area, and not quite sure about how to add in other programs to that just yet. So I know that's not a perfect answer, but that is what we, as we keep saying, that's what we know as of right now.
Thank you, Zach. Quinn, will there be any tutor engagement opportunities this summer, either virtual or in person?
So there's one more slide after this. I'll go into what our future campaigns look like and engagement opportunities in that way. But we're hoping to have some dine back nights throughout the city of Denver. That would look like doing, some takeout or even dining on a patio to help support our local businesses. Usually dine back nights will give a certain percentage of what they make that night to the charity of the evening. So maybe 10% of proceeds would go to Reading Partners for an evening. So we'll communicate all of that through email. We'll expect that we'll expect that you will receive a newsletter in July, I believe, with more information on that. And great, we have our campaigns right here. So After the Bell is in full swing right now. It's April 19th to the 30th. We've extended it 1 week this year. It's a fundraiser at the end of the year to help fund backpacks and books, and then also helps us to prepare for the next school year, or kickoff for the next school year. So if you haven't donated to that already, I'll thank you in advance for considering Reading Partners in these next 2 weeks. On May 15th, from 5:30 to 6:30, we'll have a Reading Partners book club. We will also, I expect that we'll have some book clubs throughout the summer as well. And the book is The Best We Could Do. And then May 17th through the 24th is a full week. And this is our first virtual run. It's called the Ready, Set, Read Run. It's supporting Reading Partners Colorado, San Francisco Bay Area, and Washington, D.C. All the proceeds received by Colorado runners, walkers, skippers, and rollers will go all to Reading Partners Colorado region. I do want to shout out that this is our first collaborative fundraiser between regions in the history of Reading Partners. So that's really exciting for us. It'll also include a 1 mile fun run walk, a 5K, and a 10K. I think that's about it. You can sign up on our run sign up page. It's on our previous newsletter.
Yeah, thank you, Quinn, and thanks for sharing those opportunities to get involved in other ways. All right, Zach, can I work with the same student next year?
We hope so. I think we will, a lot of you probably have been tutoring with us for multiple years. You know that there are a lot of factors in there that sometimes are out of our control. We always do everything we can to pair you with the student that maybe you've already built that relationship with, if it's your preference. Obviously, we have to make sure that we're being aware of the student's schedule and when they are allowed to come into Reading Partners. And sometimes those schedules don't match from year to year. The other thing that is important to understand is sometimes teachers don't. So a student may be in Reading Partners as a third grader, and then they move up into fourth grade, and their fourth grade teacher does not refer them to our program. So they think that either they're good to go and they don't need Reading Partners, or for whatever reason the teacher has decided that they're not going to refer that student to Reading Partners for the upcoming year. So sometimes that happens, not often, but we do what we can to try to pair tutors with the students that they've already worked with. Sometimes it's not possible, but we always try to do our best in that way. And then I know Brett answered your question, but we definitely will be, Sharon, I know we definitely will be assessing our students at the end of the year. The last day of tutoring is May 14th for all of our regular tutors. And then those last 2 weeks of school, we'll be doing end of the year assessments and our end of the year celebrations. If centers are having them, those will probably take place that last week of tutoring. It'll be a lot different than if you tutor with us in the past than those traditional big convocations have looked, obviously, but we're still going to try to do some celebration with our kids for such an amazing year that they have just shown such flexibility and grit and intentionality with our program. So we really want to celebrate the work they've done this year as well.
I can also make a plug for just filling spots for students who don't have a tutor or a second tutor. We're not enrolling tutors anymore at this point of the year, being that we're so close to the end of the year. So the current tutors that we have right now are the tutors that will be with us through the end of the year. If you have capacity to take on another student, please, please, please reach out to your distance tutoring coordinator. If not, obviously no harm, no foul. But I just wanted to make a plug in case anyone is entertaining the thought of taking on another student. It's just for another few weeks. I took on a second student today, and it's, it'll just be a few sessions and will really make a great impact on our students.
I'm gonna just remind people that tomorrow is it's World Book Day, and I'm just gonna share a little bit what I'm reading. This is old school, but this is the Norton Book of American Short Stories, and I love short stories. I think it's harder to write a short story than a long one because you've only got a few pages to get my attention, to keep it, to ramp it up, and then resolve it, and I love them. So I just encourage you to embrace World Book Day tomorrow. And if you've got some recommendations, please type them into the chat or shout them out, and continue to share that love of reading with everyone you know.
I thought that was an encyclopedia at first. Okay.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us again. We're so glad to share this time with you and share what we know and what we don't know, and learn all with you. It's been a true pleasure to have you all work with us this year, as always, but in particular in this year of challenge. We